All right, this is pre-calculus. Hopefully in class we went over how to solve these nonlinear inequalities, and today your goal is simply to watch over these and do some practice. So we're going to do 5 problems. So I'm going to put up the first problem. It is x squared minus 5x minus 4 is greater than 10. So if you want to go ahead and hit pause now and try to solve this on your own, you can, and then just hit play whenever you're ready. You can check your work with me. All right, here we go. The first step is remembers to get 0 on one side. That's the first step. So I'm going to subtract 10 on both sides. So I get x squared minus 5x minus 14 greater than 0. The second step is to find your critical values, find your CVs no matter what. Whatever you got to do, factor, quadratic formula, use your calculator, I don't care, find the CVs. So this does look to be factorable, so let's try it out here. Let's see, my thought process is 14 is 7 times 2, and I need them to add to make a negative 5. So if I make that a negative 7 and a plus 2, that would give me negative 7x, and a plus 2x does make the negative 5x. Okay, so my critical values are 7 and negative 2. So the third step is to simply place those critical numbers on a number line. Determine, do I need open or filled in? Well, I need open because it says greater than 0. It does not say or equal to. And if I use negative 2 or 7, I'm going to get 0. And 0 is not greater than 0. It is equal to. So now I got my test intervals. Let me choose any number down low here like negative 10. Negative 10 minus 7 is a negative. Negative 10 plus 2 is a negative. Two negatives make a positive. And hey, I'm looking for positive numbers. I am looking for numbers that are greater than 0. Choose any number in between, like 1. 1 minus 7 is negative. 1 plus 2 is positive. So a negative and a positive does make a negative, and I'm not looking for negatives in this particular problem. A number above 7, like 20. 20 minus 7 is a positive. 20 plus 2 is a positive. Two positives do make a positive. So that means my answers are any number below negative infinity to negative 2. Take a break, 7 towards infinity. So those are my solutions to this particular problem. So that first one's a real nice, easy one to get you guys rolling here. All right, let's take a look at a second problem here. Second problem here would be x squared plus 10x plus 25. And this is looking for numbers greater than 0. Okay, well, I already got a 0 there, so first step done. Now I got a factor. So let me see here, x plus 5 and x plus 5. So let's see if that works. 5 times 5 does make the 25. 5x and 5x makes the 10x in the middle. So I have one critical value. It's just repeated. I have one critical value at negative 5. So I'm going to go to my number line, put negative 5 on there. It is going to be an open circle because I cannot equal 0. And let's try any number below negative 5, like negative 22. Negative 22 plus 5 is a negative. Negative 22 plus 5 is a negative. Two negatives do make a positive. Okay, well, let's see here. Again, let's just run that through real quick. A negative 22 plus 5 is a negative. A negative 22 plus 5 is a negative. Okay, yeah, that works. So I like pauses, right? Pauses work. I like those numbers. Let's see here. Any number larger than negative 5. I don't know, 38. So 38 plus 5 is a positive. 38 plus 5 is another positive. Two positives do make a positive. So those numbers work as well. So if you notice, a lot of numbers work. In fact, the only number that doesn't work is at negative 5 because negative 5 makes me 0, and I'm not allowed to be 0. So it's really easy here. Every number works except for negative 5. So it'd be negative infinity to negative 5. Step over, we've talked about that before, step over negative 5, and then continue from negative 5 towards infinity. So the only numbers that don't work for this particular one is negative 5. So watch out, it's kind of a tricky one. Be careful there. All right, let's look at a third one here, and this one's going to be a little bit tricky. We'll make it tough for you guys here. Let's see here, 3x cubed minus 14x squared minus 39x plus 90. And let's see here. This is going to be looking for numbers less than or equal to 0. So you want to go ahead and pause now and try to solve this one on your own. All right, the first thing I'm thinking is that, boy, this is a cubic. I don't know how to factor this cubic. I certainly don't want to try to, I can't use the quadratic formula because that only works on quadratics. So I got to find my critical values. I got to find my critical values somehow. So I'm going to go ahead and use the calculator. So if you go actually type this into your calculator screen and hit zoom 6, look at the graph, I do notice that I'm pretty sure I see a 0 at, I think I see one at negative 3. So I got to check that. If you go on your calculator, take the time to check that as well. So let's run negative 3 here through the synthetic division, see what happens. So I get 3, negative 14, negative 39, and 90. So let's see here. Jot down the 3. That's going to be negative 9. Negative 14 minus 9 is negative 23. Negative 3 times negative 23 is 69. Negative 39 plus 69 is 30. And negative 3 times 30 is negative 90. Okay, now, I could stop here and do 3x squared minus 29 plus 30, or minus 29x, excuse me, plus 30, and go ahead and I could factor that, or I could try to use the quadratic formula. But I actually noticed that there was another 0 on the graph. Again, take a look at the graph of this. I'm pretty sure I saw another 0 at 6. So let's go ahead here, and let's continue to use 6 and see if this works. Drop down the 3. I get an 18. That's going to be negative, let's see, 9, 10, 11, negative. Hold on, I want to make sure I get this right. I don't want to mess this up. Negative 11. And let's see here. 6 times negative 11 is not negative 30. Oh boy. Oh, you know what? I messed this up. I totally messed this up. This was negative 23 right here. Oh my goodness. I said it. I just didn't write it down. So sorry. So go back. I did say negative 14 minus 9 was negative 23. So I messed that up. Apologize, guys. So negative 23 plus 18, negative 23 plus 18 is negative 5. So this does make sense. Okay, so 6 times negative 5 makes negative 30. So I get a 0 here. So I do have critical values of negative 3 and 6. And I have this 3x minus 5 left over. Set it equal to 0, add 5, divide by 3. And I do get another critical value of positive 5/3. So those are my 3 critical values. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put them on a number line in order. Be negative 6, 5/3 is a little bit more than 1, and then 6. I can be zeros. These would all be filled in dots. I am allowed to equal 0. Oh boy, I'm sorry, I'm making tons of mistakes here, guys. This should have been negative 3, right? Negative 3 was the low one, then 5/3, then 6. I had the other ones right. Now, in order to figure out your test intervals, you can use the original function right here, like we talked about in class, just storing your choices. Or you can go ahead and write x plus 3. That's the factor for negative 3. X minus 6 is the factor for 6. And don't forget the 3x minus 5. Again, you can plug your values into there. I'm going to plug them in here, but hopefully you could check on your calculator as well. So negative 20. Negative 20 plus 3 is a negative. Negative 20 minus 6 is a negative. Negative 20 times 3 is negative 60. Minus 5 is a negative. 3 negatives are going to make a negative because these first two are going to make a positive and negative. 3 negatives make a negative. And I am looking for values less than 0, so I like these numbers. Any value from negative 3 to 5/3, 0 is an easy one to pick there. So 0 plus 3 is positive. 0 minus 6 is negative. 3 times 0 minus 5 is a negative. And 2 negatives make a positive times a positive do make this a positive, which I'm not really interested in. Any number from 5/3 to 6, I don't know, I can pick 5. 5 plus 3 is positive. 5 minus 6 is negative. 3 times 5 is 15, minus 5 is positive. So 2 positives and 1 negative does make a negative overall, and I'm looking for negatives, so I like those values. Any number greater than 6, 100. 100 plus 3 is positive. 100 minus 6 is positive. 3 times 100 is 300, minus 5 is positive. 3 positives do make a positive, and I'm not really looking for positives. So my answer is going to be negative infinity to negative 3 with a bracket, and then union 5/3 to 6, all with brackets because it did say it could equal 0. So be careful with this problem. Obviously, the hard part about this problem is finding those critical values, so take your time. Hopefully you can do so. I don't think it's too bad. Just please use your calculator we've taught you. All right, fourth example here. Moving quite along pretty fast here. Fourth example here. Okay, it's going to be a rational one. So we got x minus 5 divided by x minus 3. I'm sorry, plus 3, x plus 3, less than 5. Okay, so first step, like all the other problems, is get a 0 on the one side. So I'm going to subtract the 5 over. X minus 5 over x plus 3 minus 5. Now, in order for me to start finding my critical values, remember that's one of the most important steps to find those critical values, I do need to make all of this 1. So I have to treat this as a fraction, 5/1, and I have to actually go ahead and try to make this one fraction. So my common denominator is going to be x plus 3 times 1, which is x plus 3. This guy right here already has that. He's good to go. So I'm going to leave the top alone, x minus 5. This is the problem right here. I need an x plus 3 down here, and I'll gladly put one on top. But I got to be careful because I have to distribute a negative 5. So that's going to make negative 5x and a negative 15, less than 0. Now when I combine like terms, I get, let's see here, negative 4x minus 20 on top, all divided by x plus 3. Okay? So what does that make for my critical values? Well, the bottom is very easy to see. I have a critical value at negative 3. On top, I have to think about this. If you need to, take your time. Set it equal to 0. Add 20. Divide by negative 4. Gets you negative 5. Again, negative 5 times negative 4 is positive 20. Minus 20 does make the 0. Okay? So that is why I had a critical value of negative 5. So once you get those critical values, put them on a number line. Negative 3 has to remain open no matter what because it came from the denominator, and the denominator is never allowed to be 0. But negative 5 actually has to remain open as well because it does not say or equal to. So go ahead and do my test value, negative 100. I mean, make it easy on yourself. Negative 100. Negative 100 times negative 4 is going to be positive 400. Minus 20 would be a positive. Negative 100 plus 3 is a negative, so a positive and a negative do make a negative. So these end up being negatives, which I like. I like numbers that are less than 0. Pick a number in between negative 5 and negative 3, like negative 4 is obviously the easiest one to choose. Negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16. 16 minus 20 is a negative. On the bottom, negative 4 plus 3 is a negative. Two negatives make a positive, and I'm not looking for positive in this particular problem. Choose any number larger than negative 3. I mean, make it easy on yourself, guys. 3,000. I mean, seriously. Negative 4 times 3,000 is negative 12,000. Minus 20 is going to be a negative. 3,000 plus 3 is a positive, so a negative and a positive do make a negative. And I do like these negative values over here because I am looking for numbers less than 0. Less than 0 right there. So my answer would be all numbers from negative infinity to negative 5, parenthesis, union, negative 3 towards infinity. So hopefully that makes sense to you, and hopefully that's another fairly easy problem. Just make sure you're careful on combining the fractions there. All right, one more problem to go. I promised you 5 problems. We got one more to go, and this video is history. All right, last problem here is number 5, and it is, let's see here, x squared plus x minus 12, all divided by x plus 2. And this is greater than or equal to 0. All right, so first thing I noticed is I already have a 0 here. That is awesome news. And the second awesome news is I already have one fraction. I don't have to worry about combining fractions, getting a common denominator. I don't have to worry about any of that, which is awesome. Okay, all I got to do is find my critical values, and I need to factor that top. Let's say it's going to be x plus 4 times x minus 3. And then on the bottom, I can't do anything, so that's x plus 2. Okay? So now that I have it all factored, I can see my critical values are negative 4, positive 3, and negative 2. So go ahead. Let me make that a negative 2 very clear there. So go ahead and make your number line. Negative 4 would go first, then negative 2. Then positive 3. Now be very careful. Negative 2, no matter what, is open because it came from the denominator. Denominator can never, ever be 0 no matter what. Even though it says equal to 0, denominators can't be. However, negative 4 and 3 are filled in because they can be 0. It would be okay for them to be 0 because they come from the top and it says or equal to. Okay, so any number less than negative 4, like negative 5. Negative 5 plus 4 is negative. Negative 5 minus 3 is negative. Negative 5 plus 2 is negative. 3 negatives will make a negative when you're working with positives. So negatives here. The top two are going to make a positive. Divided by a negative is a negative. And I'm looking for numbers greater than 0. All right, negative 4 to negative 2. Negative 3 is an easy one in there. So negative 3 plus 4 is positive. Negative 3 minus 3 is negative. Negative 3 plus 2 is negative. The two negatives make a positive, so I do get a positive number inside of there, and I like positives. All right, negative 2 to 3, choose an easy one like 0 here. 0 plus 4 is positive. 0 minus 3 is negative. 0 plus 2 is positive. The negative is going to ruin this and make the whole thing negative because a positive times a negative is a negative. Divided by a positive is a negative, and I'm certainly not looking for negative values in this particular problem. Any number greater than 3, like 100. 100 plus 4 is 100, and 4, which is positive. 100 minus 3 is 97, which is positive. 100 plus 2 is 102, which is positive. And 3 positives is definitely going to make a positive, and I like positive outcomes, so I'm going to use those values. So my answer, my interval would be bracket -4 to -2 parenthesis, union bracket 3 towards infinity. So be very careful with this problem because of the fact that -2 has to remain a parenthesis because it cannot be 0 in the denominator. All right, guys, that's about it. Plan on doing some practice problems in class on Wednesday and then having a short assessment over this. All right, take care.